The truth the girls. The truth the girls.
Hi everyone. Well, I have touched on the subject of ayahuasca in some of my vlogs and on the radio. And then my attention was drawn recently to this article. Kyle Nolan, American teen reportedly dead from hallucinogen in Peru. This appeared in the Huffington Post and it's also reported elsewhere. So this young man who was 18 went down to the jungle and took ayahuasca brew with a shaman. And the young man died, and the shaman says that it was after exceeding the dosage of a medicinal plant called ayahuasca on August 23rd. Obviously, this is extremely tragic. I mean, there's no doubt about that. I feel very bad for his family. However, when I saw this, I kind of wondered, what happened here? Is ayahuasca a safe and effective medicinal plant, or is it a dangerous brew that could kill you? Well, looking at the case of Kyle Nolan and ask myself what happened here, I think I may know possibly what could have gone wrong. And so I'm going to share with you some information on the safety of standard traditional ayahuasca brew, all from scientific literature. And then I'm going to let you know what I think might have happened to Kyle Nolan, because ayahuasca, the standard brew, has been proven quite solidly to be safe. That is to say, it has been proven to be safe when taken by healthy adults in a traditional context where they've been given the traditionally prepared brew in the right dose and that they have been prepared with the appropriate prescribed diet and have abstained from all contraindicated medications and don't have any underlying medical conditions. In that context, it's been shown to be safe. I actually took ayahuasca myself a couple of years ago, and I actually got a lot out of the experience. This is not medical advice or any kind of advice here that I'm giving you. I'm just exploring this subject for research purposes and sharing my findings with you. I'm not recommending that you run out and take drugs of any kind, including traditional herbs, for whatever reasons. Before I took the ayahuasca myself, I researched it extensively, of course researched the dangers, and tried to look for any cases of deaths that had been associated with ayahuasca. And at the time, I could find only one, which was the death of a 71-year-old woman named Jane Mayangawi in Canada, who died during an ayahuasca ceremony. However, it turned out that she died from nicotine poisoning. The ayahuasca was given in conjunction with nicotine, including nicotine enemas. And in addition to that, and her advanced age, she was also diabetic and had been off her diabetes medication for some time for participating in the ceremony. So that may have also contributed to it. Ayahuasca is used traditionally by certain religious groups in South America, especially Brazil, such as the Santo Daime group, also União de Vegetal, and Ceu Do, and also Ceu Do, which is part of something called Ceu Flores, which is international more or less. They have a Ceu Do here in Montreal, although I've never been there. So anyhow, this has been used for a very long time by thousands of people in this traditional context. In the 1980s, it came under scrutiny in Brazil. There was a lot of negative publicity aimed at the Santo Daime church. And people were saying this is like a cult, they're brainwashing their followers, they're giving them drugs. So the Brazilian, what are they called, CONFEN, which is the Federal Drug Council, which I guess is maybe something like a DEA, thoroughly investigated this during the 80s and the 90s, and they concluded that the use of the ayahuasca brew within this traditional context was safe and had no deleterious effects on health or on a psychosocial level. Actually, they found that it had a lot of beneficial effects, and some of the government's own agents actually went in and partook of the brew themselves and came out concluding that there was no problem and there was no reason to shut this down. And Brazil actually made ayahuasca legal. They actually concluded that the biggest danger was falling down while under the influence because it makes you dizzy. Now, there's a tremendous amount of scientific literature on ayahuasca. It's been studied extensively in terms of physical effects, biochemical effects, effects on brain activity, as well as psychological effects and psychosocial effects. I'm not going to read you all this material that I have here, excerpts from these studies, but I have here one document which is 215 pages worth of research, many studies, and it has been concluded across the board from this research that traditionally made ayahuasca brew taken in the recommended doses by healthy adults is physically safe. And I'm not giving you medical advice, but this is in fact what the literature has concluded. They've also concluded that there were notable psychosocial benefits associated with using ayahuasca, and that it also seemed to aid in addiction treatment, breaking addictions. They actually concluded that the people who were using ayahuasca within this traditional context had fewer psychological issues, such as anxiety, phobias, depression, and addiction problems. And generally they were quite high functioning, better functioning actually than those who didn't use it. So the research actually is very positive. So if there's so much evidence that ayahuasca is safe, and there's never been a death reported other than this one woman in Canada, which it turned out that it was from the nicotine, what happened with Kyle Nolan? Well, what I think is a very good possibility is that it was not a standard ayahuasca brew. See, the ayahuasca brew is usually Banisteriopsis caapi, which is the ayahuasca vine, and Psychotria viridis, also known as chacruna. Sometimes, though, people use other things in the brew, such as Syrian rue, which is then used in combination with either chalaponga, chacruna, or mimosa hostilis. There are other things that can be added to the brew, and one of them is known as toe, Brugmansia suaveolens, which is in the datura family. And as they explain here, this could be an extremely dangerous herb to use because it's actually very possible to overdose on anything in the datura family. This is an herb that's used by prostitutes, well, not this one, but one that's in the same family, from the burundanga plant borrachero tree. This is used by prostitutes in South America to intoxicate their clients, to put them in a highly suggestible state so they can then order them to give them all the money in their bank account and such. And often enough, these people who are dosed with this datura die, because there's a fine line between the dose to produce an effect and the dose that would produce an overdose. And as they say here, some shamans in the Amazonian jungle use toe, and this can be very dangerous. So I really suspect that what happened here was that this young man was given a brew that included other plants, I think, possibly, although I can't know for sure, but I suspect that he was given something such as possibly toe or some other form of datura, and this is why he died, because there's a lot of evidence showing that standard ayahuasca brew, Banisteriopsis caapi and Psychotria viridis, is not dangerous and would be very hard to overdose on. However, jungle brew with some toe or something else in it, maybe you could overdose very easily. And so this is why I think, people need to be very, very careful always. And drug tourism in general is dangerous. I think that's kind of one thing, and then the traditional use of regular ayahuasca brew, like what they have in Santo Daime or União de Vegetal, is another. I don't think that it's the same thing at all. Anyhow, I did want to bring your attention to this, and also remind you to kind of be careful, watch out for propaganda, because there's a lot of propaganda against medicinal plants. And if someone, dies and they just say it was ayahuasca, people really don't know what ayahuasca is. They could think that, yeah, it's a very dangerous thing. It should be completely illegal and let's ban it, which I think is a shame, because it's been shown to have a lot of medicinal properties, especially when it comes to people with addiction and psychological disorders like phobias and things like that. And, they deserve all the help they can get. And if it comes from a plant, well, I think that that's good. Then more research should be done. Because what we need is cures. We don't want disease management. We want people to actually regain their health so they can have good quality of life and, be happy. And that's important. So that's what I think. Leave me your comments. And thanks for listening to me. And I'll see you next time.